Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is obvious that the last 24 hours has spread confusion. What the public desperately needs today is to be given some clarity. Mr. Speaker, lives are at risk, so political judgments and verdicts on this weekend's chaos will have to wait for another day. I respect the right of the Prime Minister to make his judgments on his scientific advice. I hope he is right in the determinations he is making, and that crucially, if evidence suggests an increase in the R rate, that he is prepared to act accordingly. Mr. Speaker, we need to be guided by one clear understanding, and that is that mixed messaging risks lives. In order to urgently re-establish clarity, I want to ask the Prime Minister 5 specific questions, and I would genuinely urge him to provide 5 clear answers. So for clarity, will the Prime Minister confirm that he accepts and respects that in the devolved nations the advice clearly remains: stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives, and that it is the legal right of all the First Ministers to set their approach for Scotland, for Wales and for Northern Ireland? Mr. Speaker, in terms of the new slogan, last night the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "I have consulted across the political spectrum across all 4 nations of the United Kingdom." Can the Prime Minister therefore explain why his government didn't share his new slogan with the devolved administrations, leaving them to learn of the change in the Sunday newspapers? Further to that, will the Prime Minister commit not to deploy this new slogan in Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland unless the devolved governments decide otherwise? On quarantining following travel, when will these quarantine measures come into force? And can the Prime Minister confirm if his own Transport Secretary has told airline industry leaders that if there are too many obstacles in implementing it, it may not even happen? And finally, for ultimate clarity, will the Prime Minister reaffirm for the public and businesses in Scotland that the advice that they should follow will come directly from the Scottish Government and not the advice that he gave in last night's broadcast?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think just quickly, the answers are 1, yes; 2, I think stay alert is a valid piece of advice, and indeed so is stay at home if you can. My answer number 4 is no, and Mr. Speaker, I would just say to the right honourable gentleman quite simply that I do think that the UK has been able, thanks to the cooperation I've had not just with honourable members opposite but across all 4 nations, I think we have been able to make a huge amount of progress together. I think most people actually understand where we are in fighting this disease. Most people looking at the reality, the practical reality of the advice that we are giving today can see that overall there is far, far more that unites the UK than divides it, though I know that it is always the political temptation to accentuate the divisions. That is not going to be the approach of this government, and I don't believe it should be the approach that commends itself to parties across this House.
Can I just urge members to speed up in the questions and certainly in the replies from the Prime Minister? I now go across to Kevin Hollinray.